was very glad. And people seemed relieved. Like I said, I processed it more through the adults than through my own perception.
And your father was glad that someone had killed Oswald.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people felt that emotion.
Mm-hmm. And if this wasn't being taped, I'd tell you what he said. But
you can tell me later if you'd like. The funeral, I know, comes up many times. I mean, I've seen your paintings, and I know the funeral imagery is something that you seem very focused on. Do you remember watching the funeral live that weekend?
Yes. Yes, my mother made sure we had it on, yes. And I didn't watch all of it. I just saw bits and pieces. Mm-hmm. My attention span wasn't quite there for it. I don't actually remember the church part. I do remember the procession. I do remember the horses. I love horses, so didn't realize about the comparison horse that was anything until I painted a horse. And what really stood out for me is that there were a lot of Catholic people there, and the priests and the robes and all that. That was very familiar to me. I went to church every morning, Mass, and saw the different robes and things, and so that it just stood out. And in one of my paintings I have that to the left. Made sure that was very prominent.
Well, moving beyond the assassination, as the years go on, was this something that's held your interest as books would come out, documentaries or movies? Was it something that you would revisit because of these childhood memories of it?
No,
okay.
Never did.
Okay.
Never did, because it was more the images for me. Mm-hmm. I was not very interested in history. When I read a history book, it was only to get through a class and memorize dates, and I didn't quite understand the impact of it. And then when I started thinking about it, my memories were of images. And once I got connected through the images, I started going back to the history and the history behind the images. So mine was a little bit backwards.
Yeah. Tell me how you got interested in painting.
Oh, I've always been interested in drawing, actually. My father's a very good artist. He never really pursued that route. He taught me to draw, and he had great cartoon people. I never really could do that, but he would, we'd just sit down and draw sometimes. I just remember I always had a coloring book or just piece of paper, and that's how I would get through school, because I'd get bored. I'd finish my work early, and then I could draw. So I had a goal to finish things so I could do something else that I loved.
Was there a moment when you just thought about it and said, I'm going to be an artist, that's going to be my career?
Yeah, early on, but I never pursued it early, because I knew the problems that came with it were just, you take a big risk, a big chance. The finances just weren't that easy to come by as an artist. And I didn't want to face that, but I never gave up that passion, so I came back to it. Because yes, at one point I said, I really want to be a painter. And I took a class. This was interesting. I went to SMU. I didn't graduate from there, but I went there for 2 years and took studio art. And I had to take a painting class. Had to, as part of it, as you well know, the disciplines. And I took this painting class and I hated it. I thought mixing colors and putting them together and putting them up on a piece of canvas was so difficult. I had no idea. And I said, I can't do that. I can draw, I can do underpaintings, I just didn't know how to mix these colors and use the right brushes and all of that. I got A's. They kept going, oh, these are great, these are wonderful paintings, and I'm going, that's too hard. That is way too difficult. So that was all I had actually in oil painting and my background. And later on, that became my challenge. And that's why I think it became my passion.
That's your primary medium now, right?
It sure is.
So when along this process, what year was it that suddenly the Kennedy assassination emerged as a point of inspiration?
Can we stop just a second?
Yeah. Okay, picking back up. So what year was it that the Kennedy assassination sort of emerged as this point of inspiration for you?
3 years ago. Before the 50th anniversary. And there was so much on TV. And I'm not a big TV watcher. And I became glued. Every time something came on about Kennedy, I was mesmerized. And I didn't understand it. And I would pick up books. I went to the internet. I came across these wonderful images in Life magazine. And all of a sudden I realized, you know what, there's something going on here. And that's when I realized that was my first deep emotional awakening of what life is all about.
Did you plan it out as a series of paintings, or did you just start with one and it just sort of evolved from there?
I started with one. I was taking a class. I thought I'd go back and get my master's. I thought that may help push me forward in my career as a painter. So I went back to a class, a painting class, taught by Tamir Cleary, young, really good painter from New York. And he was an intern. And I thought, okay, this guy's pretty good. And I told him that really I knew how to draw really well. Color eludes me at times. And he said, let's combine those two things right there, take the color factor out of it and see what you come up with. And I never thought of that. Okay. And it was the strangest thing that Jackie Onassis came out of this. That was the first one I did. Took it to class because we have critiques all the time. So you have to learn that people aren't going to like it, you know, from day one. And the point is that you need to like your own work. So I took it in there and people were looking around. And I said, do y'all even know who this is? And all of them go, yeah, that's Jackie Kennedy. And this one girl is from South America, barely speaks English. I know who that is, you know, and she even knew who it was. And I thought, well, that's good. At least the image says something right there, who it is. And I said, I was asking them, what does it say? And really no one had a whole lot to say about it, but my instructor said, this is really touching. So I thought, well, that's a good way to do it. And then I started looking at some more images. And the next image I did was John saluting his dad. I realized then I was becoming connected to the images and the emotions that it evoked inside of me, and that's how the series evolved.
Do you think you felt a special connection to the Kennedy children because you were a child yourself when this happened?
Yes, especially Caroline. Would watch her and see how she acted and thought about her a lot. As I painted, I thought about, oh, I wish I'd been able to meet her and know her. And I did almost get an opportunity to do that because I did get a job at the Metropolitan Museum when I was living in New York. And I ended up I was a runner, and I ended up messing up my knee, had to go home for an operation, didn't get to start my job. I was so sorry. That was a big thing for me. Then I found out that she was working there. She got on a month later after that, and I went, oh, I would have been able to talk to her. Just to say I had actually talked to her would have been a thrill for me.
Well, maybe someday you'll have that opportunity.
I'd love it.
Yeah. Now, you displayed some of your art at the Governor's Mansion. Tell me about that.
I did. They do display Arkansas artists this is the Governor's Mansion in Arkansas, in Little Rock. And Governor Beebe was the governor at the time, and they are big art followers, and his wife, Ginger, is very big in the arts. And so I just submitted some of them, and they said, oh, we've got to have these. These are wonderful. Which one? And I said, I don't know, you pick. And he picked out 3. He said there was only room for 1, and then he said, I can't pick between all of these, so he picked out 3 of them, and they made room for them. Mm. And they were up for about 5 months.
Wow. During the 50th anniversary commemoration?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel that you have found a certain amount of catharsis through this work? Do you feel like you've dealt with whatever lingering emotions you still had from childhood over being part of this event?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I saw a big link of how I deal with things and the depth. And I still feel them, though. It's not like I just went through them while I was painting. I still have the images have a way of drawing me into them and the emotion connected.
You called the series Fading Memories of President Kennedy, or JFK, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Fading Memories. Where did that phrase come from?
While I was painting the series, they were all memories that are etched in my mind. And the only thing I can say is about the fading part is that the time is what fades those memories. Mm-hmm. And I found a way to show that was fading, I believe, in the way that I painted it.
I really like the title of the series. I think it captures the elusiveness of time, the fact that we're trying with a project like this to capture these memories before they're gone, before they fade away completely. And so I saw a unique sort of correlation between the title of your series and the work that we're trying to do here to preserve this history as long as we can. Tell me about visiting Dealey Plaza. What is it like for you at this site?
I love being here. This is wonderful. This is my first visit was 5 months ago, and it was surreal to me because, first of all, I didn't even realize where these paintings would go. And can I tell you that part?
Please, yeah.
Okay. Well, I have a friend that lives here in Dallas, and she knows Nicola. Vaguely, they had met at a party, and she saw my paintings. And we have a close little group, anyway, that we grew up with in high school. And we all show, what we're doing. We have a writer, and I'm the artist, and, we have some